Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tea Time with Elsa. Atlas is behind me having a little hay. And Rom is up in the woods having a little hay. And Ari is in the other paddock. He does have hay, but he would rather be out here with the group. So today, I have a little bit of story to tell. And the story is really about stress. Good morning, Zena. Welcome. Last tea time, I was so excited about how well Atlas and Ari were doing. Good morning, Rebecca. Thank you for joining us. As you can see today, I do not have Ari and Atlas in together. And that is because we had a bit of a fight. Only it's funny, don't worry, nobody got hurt. The two of them, Atlas and Ari, were playing. And they were playing in a way that seemed really happy to me. Their ears were up, their eyes were bright, their faces seemed happy. Now, for any of you who are part of my Patreon group, you will have heard me talk about a telltale sign that Atlas has when he starts to get overwhelmed. His front feet get farther and farther back underneath his body. And that's when I know I should break up the game. We should go do something else before Atlas is overwhelmed enough that he feels like he has to fight. Well, on that particular day, when Atlas and Ari were playing, I noticed his front feet were getting farther and farther back underneath him. And I thought, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know as much as I think I know. Maybe I should just let this play out. Maybe he's not overwhelmed and this is just a good game. Well, I watched, and those front legs got farther and farther back underneath Atlas. And sure enough, he was overwhelmed and he went for his massive launch with the open mouth to just take Ari down in a bad way. And the funny part of it is he was standing on a muddy slope. And so when he launched at Ari, he fell down. His all 4 feet went out from underneath him and he slid down the muddy hillside and never made contact with Ari. And so nobody was hurt, which is really nice. When it comes to a stallion fight that nobody gets hurt, that's a good kind of fight. So I got them separated. We walked off the stress. I thought everything was okay. But after that, for about 48 hours, Atlas was mad. He was angry at everything. His ears were pinned, his eyes were narrowed. Everything got an overt fight reaction from Atlas. I didn't go near him. I didn't touch him for 2 days. We did distance work. I did all the things that I knew how to do to help him feel better. But that's a very vulnerable feeling. When you fall down, particularly when you're about to fight, it's very, very vulnerable. And I've known a lot of horses that will get very angry after that. So I titled this talk, Stress as a Good Thing. And you're probably thinking, well, how is that good? That's not good. Stress is the way we learn the fastest. So I don't know if Ari and Atlas learned anything from that, but I learned a lot. I watched it unfold. I saw the telltale signs that Atlas was getting overwhelmed. I chose not to intervene because I was curious if I was right or if I was wrong. And this is where stress is valuable. Okay, so when we're wrong, when we make mistakes with a horse, it means we get associated with bad feelings. The horse feels bad, we're present, they associate us with feeling bad. That's a mistake. But in every mistake, there is an incredible opportunity for learning. The things I have learned in my life the fastest were attached to really dramatic contrast. this thing is better, that thing is worse. How do we get better more often and worse less often? When it's not dramatic, you don't tend to remember it as well. I promise you, this little fight that Atlas and Ari had, where Atlas fell down instead of managing to attack, I'm not going to forget that for a really long time. It was stressful. It took Atlas several days to recover from it. And that's part of learning. But it's going to leave a really dramatic mark in my memory that I'm not likely to forget. And so freedom-based training is designed to be very slow, very gradual, so that any mistakes we make are very minor. But when you get to interactions between horses, they have the ability to bite, kick, attack, knock each other down. They can kill each other if they're determined to. There's a lot more dramatic incidences when it comes to putting horses together versus just working with one horse carefully. So if I wanted freedom-based training to be very, very, very slow, I would only work with a horse in a calm environment, in places where the stress was going to stay very low, and we could build from there. But it's incredibly slow. And the problem with incredibly slow is you forget a lot of the things you've learned. It's just a very low intensity. Now, that's the way I like to learn. But I will tell you, when I make a bigger mistake, and there is a bigger contrast that I see the horse becomes more concerned or more afraid or more overwhelmed, I remember that. And when I remember that, it really helps me do better in the future. So in a future circumstance, I see what's about to happen and I think, I know what to do. I know how to change this situation so it turns out better than it did last time. And then there's recovery. Recovery is important too. So Atlas here, you can see as he's eating, he's particularly shut down today. Like those ears aren't moving very much. The eyes aren't opening very much. This is how he's been for the past couple of days. This is okay, okay? Everybody always wants to fix things right away. Believe me, I do too. But when we learn to accept the emotional state the horse is in and really, really gently let them evolve out of it, develop out of it, they become a stronger, better version of themselves. So after that incident with Ari where Atlas fell down, we had a backslide in training. When I went to touch him in the days afterwards, we had muscle spasms again. So you could feel the muscles firing underneath my hands in an automatic tick. And that hasn't happened in a really long time, probably 9 months now. I'd have to go back and look on my calendar, but a long time. But that's really important information for me. I'm not going to put Atlas and Ari back in the same space until Atlas starts having better automatic responses to interactions. So if he feels vulnerable enough that his muscles are twitching and spasming when I go to touch him, he's probably not stable enough to handle interactions with the other stallion. It's just the way it goes. Do I wish I'd never made that mistake? Do I wish that I'd split them up before that happened? Yes and no. I guess I like learning enough that I'm willing to take the higher stress moments to really make a strong mark in my brain so that I remember things. I think I'm a better teacher that way. For Ari and Atlas's sake, of course, I wish I had seen those front legs coming back under Atlas and gone, you know what, that's enough. Let's stop and let's go do something else before the stress gets any higher. That's high enough. For the horse's sake, I would always encourage you to keep stress a little bit lower. for the sake of learning, of being a better trainer for every horse you meet in the future, don't be afraid to make some mistakes. You will remember them better, and you will be a far better friend to every horse you meet in the future if you can learn from those mistakes. So question, do you ever know of any draft horses or draft crosses for lease or use? Yes, they come up from time to time, but I can't say that I know of any right now at this moment. So this guy up here, he's a draft cross. He came from the auction. He was a trail horse for a while. And the story I was told was that he actually learned how to reach around behind him and pull people off of his back by their clothing. And so he did not get to be a trail ride for tourists too much longer after that. But he's never done that with us. You know, it's a funny story. There are so many things that make horses interesting, diverse, unique. Sometimes I think about, well, what if training was perfect all the time and we always kept it at such a low stress level that nothing dramatic ever happened. There were no bad feelings ever associated with us as a human. That's really beautiful. Like, I don't have anything against that, but what I will tell you is that people and horses that have had that experience often don't really know what to do when it starts to go wrong. It's very, very shocking. So I think there's a wide variety that we can play with. When things go wrong, okay, dial it back, keep everybody safe. How do we recover from that incident, whatever it was? I mean, I wish Atlas never fell down in his life, but he's going to fall down sometimes. Sometimes you trip, sometimes you fall down. In my experience with him, every time he falls down, he has a couple of days afterwards where his stress is very, very high, but he's getting better and better and better at recovering from it. My theory is the more times he recovers from something like that, the better he gets at recovery. And that's a really important skill in life. If I see he's going to fall and I can see that I can divert it, of course I'm going to do that. Of course I'm going to help him not fall down. But if he does fall down, it's not the end of the world. I haven't failed him. I've learned something. I went, what happened before that fall? How would I see that fall coming in the future? Do I know what I could have done to change his focus or have him think differently so that he didn't fall? All of those things are more valuable in me as a friend to Atlas than if he had never fallen at all. So, you know, this is one of those times when I just am going to encourage you, if dramatic things happen, think back. Why did it happen? How could I understand it better so that in the future I can handle it better? See, I have some comments here. Sam, you probably are an awesome friend by now. Yes. Making mistakes helps you learn faster. That's all there is to it. Yeah, Megan, absolutely. We try hard not to muck things up, but we do. And the horses do. And their friends do. And stuff gets mucked up. And the better you get at either diverting it before it gets mucked up or recovering from it after it gets mucked up, the more you can handle life, because that's what life is. I really, really, really try hard, and I'm very proud of myself for being able to avoid a lot of muck-ups. But most of the muck-ups I can avoid were because I made them at some time in the past, or because I had a really good teacher who helped me understand how to avoid them or how to recover from them. So, Annie says, "Dear Elsa, I really love to hear you talk about this. Helps me figure out sooner that a bigger mistake can lead to good things after I've yelled at myself a lot." Believe me, I yell at myself too. And I went through a lot of soul searching this week, particularly when I realized Atlas was going to go through 2 days of being very angry after he fell down. I wish that I could have avoided that. I was mad at myself, but I just have to keep remembering how much I learned from the mistake, because that's how I got to be skilled at this sort of thing. Is making mistakes is faster than not making mistakes. It's the fastest way to learn. You remember the things that happen and you do better in the future. Can you learn without ever making mistakes? Yes, absolutely. I'm 100% for that type of learning too. That's great if you can manage it. Most of us muck up more than that. So those are my thoughts today. And I will tell you, Atlas is a really big sweetheart. The day that he shifted from being angry to being really sweet and kind and gentle again, it was like this big breath of fresh air where I realized that he was capable of recovering much faster than he ever has in the future, or in the past. In the future, he will get even better at it. That's how it works. You only get better at the things you practice. So hopefully we can practice this with less intensity. As the training goes on, we want to teach Atlas to recover from smaller mishaps, not just falling down on the ground. And then hopefully the better he gets at recovering from small things, he will then also get better at recovering from big things. But don't be afraid to make mistakes. Mistakes make you learn faster. So I'm going to put some time in with Atlas without Ari around for probably the next 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that. And same with Ari. And when the both of them feel very emotionally stable again, I'll put them back together again. And hopefully I will do a better job of watching those front legs on Atlas. If you guys are curious, I have a video in the Patreon group that you can watch that sort of shows how I noticed that. And now that I know better, I will do better. That's all there is to it. So, yeah, Oriana, Ram is pretty funny. He's a character. I like having him around. Yeah, exactly, Tony. Mistakes are the fertilizer of life. Exactly. I am very human, and I want to acknowledge that I hate making mistakes. I hate it, and I will yell at myself a lot when I make a mistake, when horses feel worse in my company, when they associate feeling worse with me. I'm not happy about it. But the better I get at seeing that, understanding I'm not happy, and then looking at the other side of it. Okay, so yes, so you're not happy. It's not good. Understood. Use that as fertilizer. Use that to progress your understanding and your learning faster than it would otherwise. So I'm going to leave you guys with that thought. Thank you so much for joining me for tea time today. And if you make a big mistake, learn from it. Think back. What is all the things that happened before that? And then afterwards, learn from all the things you do that help you and your horse recover. Those are really valuable. If you never mess up, you wouldn't learn how to recover. So have a wonderful day, and I will see you next week.